So we are now up to item 9, which is Lynette's newly formatted transport report, which I must say is a lot easier for people like me to understand.
I've got a couple of stats with us today as well, but I did want to talk a little bit about the new format, why we had to go at changing what the monthly report was. It did get very long, and we were also starting to replicate information that you were getting in the finance and performance meeting. So what we've tried to do is take a step back and say, why are we doing the things that we do, and help you have more information about, and the community have more information about why we do things like the safe speed zones, why we're doing some of our capital projects and what we're trying to achieve with them. So we've this month taken a look at High Street. We were very aware that we've gone through the design process, but we haven't come back with the absolute detail of the cultural narrative that we're trying to talk to down there, being a Mahunga Kai, being a pathway to the sea, and Lindsay's here to talk through a little bit of that if you want that. I also wanted us to talk today about how we're going on Marshton Bridge, and the intersection upgrade, and remind everyone of what we were achieving out there, including the area of ecological significance that we had out there, talking to safe speed zones. And there's a bit of an update in there, which is a little bit more industrial, if you like, on the craft project. It's exactly where we're at with all the craft projects, and as requested, a list and update on where we're at of all the safety projects that are being delivered under craft. And there's a very brief update at the end about Coastal Pathway, but we can do more on Coastal Pathway in the future. My goal is to actually have these coming through as smaller reports more often, so maybe we hit the table once a month with 4 or 5 of these topics in the report each month. Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
I'm really keen to get your feedback as well, and if there's topics that are coming at you that you want us to give you an update on, then we can get that into the next report. So that's what we're really keen to do.
So thank you, Lynette. And it's certainly, as I said, it's a lot easier for me to follow, and look forward to more of them coming up. Have we got any questions? Tim?
Yeah, I guess it's not so much a question, it's just that in communities, the safe speed zones are really important and very highlighted, especially in those middle communities that are being sandwiched between infilling, etc. So, and I know, so that would be a real highlight to just keep up, because it's great that we've kind of got through NZTR, we were able to have more movement on that. So that's really important. Thank you.
Pauline?
Yeah, thanks, Lynette. Just looking at the High Street works there around the Sodvesi High Street, Churum, Poplar Lane area.
Yes.
Where they're changing all the signals.
It's the bit that's underway at the moment.
Yeah,
yep.
It's going to look really lovely. So that's not going to have to be dug up again if there needs to be another substation put in anywhere, a power station?
No. The amount of traffic lights was really for when the tram was planned to go down the bottom section of High Street, and now that's not the case. Those lights are not needed. So although the substation hasn't obviously been decided on or what is required, that will come out of the power study we're about to start with the tram company. It won't affect the traffic signals on Churum.
Right, just so you're aware that we're not going to have to dig up the paving to accommodate that at all.
No.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Jimmy? Minyani?
Regarding to the 126 project, whether it's currently under the long-term plan 2021 to 2024, but in a yearly basis, for instance, like this annual plan, or maybe the community board or the council have think in some area location need to improve, those safety issue, access, and the environment, etc. Whether still can be possible amendment or not.
Amendment to the projects?
Yeah.
That's happening.
Because these are for 3 years only, am I right?
No, that 120. Yeah, but the 100. We've got 126 projects active right at the moment.
Yes.
Yes.
But still will be
There's more coming on next year, and there'll be, yes. Yeah. Doesn't mean we've got 100 next year.
Yes.
No, we could have 150 next year. I haven't looked at the number.
Okay.
So yes, it's just an indication of how much we've got going on
Okay.
and how much we're working to complete this year.
Yes.
We are hoping that some of the other 100 might go a bit faster than we expected and finish earlier.
Okay. Thank you.
Just on top of that, we are going around all the boards as well and just
Yeah.
presenting to them what projects we've got in that area this year. And that's also an opportunity for the board to feed back to us on what we're doing in those areas.
Out of 140 million, let's all secure the budget in our long-term plan.
That's what you've approved in our
Yes.
long-term plan. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yanni, please.
Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to, just on page 152, looking at the public transport network improvements concept development. It says a draft program of public transport improvements has been developed, which is elected members for their comment in December. The PT Futures business case has been endorsed by Waka Kotahi board.
Yep.
When, like, I'm just trying to understand, like, we've got projects in that future PT business case.
Yes.
So are we just getting those projects coming back to us, or are there new projects that are being considered that will then be asked for input into? And where does the Central City Shuttle fit into that? Thank you.
So the PT projects on page 52 relate to CRAF. 152 relate to the CRAF program of works. The CRAF investment case specifically states that we need to select a number of projects from the PT Futures business case for implementation using CRAF funding. My understanding is the Central City Shuttle doesn't feature in the PT Futures business case. So they don't tie together. They're different projects. So yes, you will get a list of projects as identified from the PT Futures business case that's been endorsed both by you and the Waka Kotahi board. And that will be, and we will be putting them in a prioritisation list, and that's the conversation we're having. This is how we're prioritising, this is what we think we can do. Here's the other ones, what do you think?
Why do we have to have such a delayed process? Like, isn't Waka Kotahi going to fund the PT Futures business case things that we've put forward? Like, we've agreed to the funding through our LTP.
I think you're muddling processes, Councillor, I'm sorry. The CRAF process has $5 million ring-fenced for PT projects.
You know, I get that, but what I'm trying to understand is why do we have to wait for the PT Futures business case to get on and do some of those projects, and why do we have to only select the projects that are in that business case?
Because as I said before, the investment case from Treasury that puts the rules around how we can spend the CRAF money says we need to select projects that have been identified as part of the PT Futures business case. That was endorsed not that long ago, a couple of months ago, by the Waka Kotahi board. Now we are looking to get you the list because you've asked for some governance oversight of what that list is before we go ahead and do it.
Right. Okay. And do we, there'll be projects in that business case that have been approved by Waka Kotahi that are funded through them? Or are there just a whole bunch of projects that are unfunded in our business case?
A business case is just a list of projects. The delivery bodies are different. We're the delivery body. We've still got to have it on our program. We've still got to agree it. We've got to have our local share of funding. They're not then, unless it's on a state highway, then it's not 100% funded by Waka Kotahi.
So this is basically funding to deal with existing projects rather than new projects that are unfunded.
I'm sorry, Councillor, you've got me very confused. I don't
Is this
know what
money?
you mean. So
So this isn't like new money additional for new projects. This is basically a budget to pay for existing projects that are currently unfunded.
the $5 million in the CRAF funding is Crown funding that we got provided and is sitting in our bank waiting to be spent.
You know, I get that, but the projects that are in the business case that are there's a number of projects that are unfunded that we can apply this to. Is that basically the gist of it?
I think,
I'm sorry,
yeah, I think we got very roughly
we
speaking.
have to use CREF money
Yeah.
for PT Futures.
Yes, that's right. And
We have to.
we got given $40 million, which we divided up amongst
Yeah.
5 different areas of
5
roughly
areas, safety and PT.
Yeah, and 5 different physical areas as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I'm very pleased to read that Marine Trade and Bale Hill Road are on the list. And sorry, Yanni, I'm butting in here. I see you've done the strength of those streets. Is it looking half good, or
I don't
it's
know
being
the
analysed
details,
at the
sorry.
moment?
Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Have you got any? Sorry, Yanni, I butted in. Have you got
Well,
anything?
just the one project that I mean, if you can't answer today, that's fine. But just the PT work at Eastgate, is that being complete? Is there any high level comment you can just make on the progress of that?
I believe that update was put through last week. It's on the watch list, so the update will be in the finance and performance from last week.
Okay, all good. I've got a couple. I'd just like to say I got a start work notice sent to me the other day on that new bus. I wouldn't say the word exchange bus stop at the Palms.
Super stop.
It's underway.
Yes.
That's going to be good and solve a hell of a lot of issues there.
Yeah.
Just one question two questions of report, Lynette. Marston's Bridge, is that sort of on time and on budget? You haven't had any big things thrown at you?
It's ahead of time, isn't it? Adrian, come down.
Yeah, no, it is after.
Come up here. Come up here.
Good morning.
So this is Adrian. He's the project manager.
Thanks, mate. Thanks. Yep, it is. We did have a rocky start, but I'm happy to report that we're currently month 10 of 18 on site. Our early target to complete this side of Christmas, due to COVID and a little bit of wet weather, is now unlikely. But we are on track to switch the new traffic lights on probably about late January, early February. So as a matter of background, we've got the project entails a bridge widening from 8 to 18 metres, and we are signalising the intersection of Lower Sticks, Marstons and Hawkins Road. So that's from a project progress perspective, we are on track. There's no long lead items. All the signal poles and light poles, for argument's sake, that's potentially could be about 3 odd months, are already on site. So we are tracking on time and on program.
Okay, thank you very much.
And just if we go back to the theme of why, remember Marston Bridge is being widened to improve the traffic flow down there. But the intersection at Lower Sticks Hawkins was one of the worst we had in the city. We had to put some really severe restrictions and turning movements in there to make it a little bit safer for everybody, and it still wasn't. It was pretty awful. And of course we had the drain, which is now to the side of the site, which is now an area of ecological significance with the lamprey spawning site. So it is a pretty neat project actually, and it's also through a culturally significant area. So yeah, it just had everything going for it.
Okay. Anne, what would you like to say?
Thank you for the intention to actually make this simpler for information to come to us, and obviously it's a challenge in lots of ways. But I guess the questions are, who do you want the information to get to? What do you want to say, and why do you want to say it? I think are really the key question. So I appreciate very much the sentiment behind that. I'm just wondering too if that will transfer into the way we actually communicate this information to our residents as well.
That is part of my goal, is that this information can be picked up after this meeting has accepted the report and uploaded to the project sites as an update for each of these projects or general transport updates. So it's then used more and more and more, and our information on our websites is getting updated and refreshed reasonably regularly as well.
Great, and that includes Smart View. Is that kind of the information that goes to them as well?
I'll have to look into
we
that
were
one.
just actually looking at that this morning, and it is such a fantastic resource that many people don't know about, but that is the kind of information that would be
Yeah.
very good
Yeah,
for
I'll talk
people
to
to be able to
yeah.
access through that as well. So, okay, more of a debate than question.
Great.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, just a quick one on the Marshlands Road Bridge. So that was years ago, I'm guessing 5. And it was about to start, and then suddenly they found the lamprey spawning site, so it got put off. It was sold to us that that lamprey spawning site was incredibly significant, that they're rare. It turns out, once I go and have a look, lampreys are everywhere, including in the Avon, in all sorts of places. So
Yeah,
why
and-
did we...
And
And they'd moved into a box drain, which is not naturally occurring.
lampreys are everywhere,
Yeah.
but they don't spawn everywhere. And it was the spawning site that's unique. And Doc advised us that it was Niwa advised us it was one of 2.
One or two spawning sites in Christchurch. And pretty unique to this site is the Canal Reserve drain.
It was at the time.
It's a spring fed water drain, so you got very clean water,
Right.
and you got a very sandy silts behind the box drain, which naturally it's a safe haven for them to spawn. So it's a little bit unique in the reserve canal drain, where you have a combination of ecological environmental factors that lend itself to the spawning site. And part of NIWA study is they've been tagging all the mature fish swimming up before they spawn, and they've been getting a lot of rich data from that in terms of understanding why they're chosen that site. And I think that informs NIWA and Doc about the threatened species of the lamprey.
Yeah, because I think I saw something that they're following 100 fish's journey and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so which will be interesting. But so in hindsight, it was the right thing to do.
100%.
Still, you're not kind of going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
More than 100%. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely,
don't know
it was the right thing to do.
lampreys that well, but why are they in other waterways if they're not spawning? Because they are born somewhere,
There's
go to
different,
sea
there's
for
different
years.
species of lamprey as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the Australis one that's
I'm not too sure, but very similar to like salmon and trouts. They follow the scent, so they release pheromones in the area and into the water, so they can travel back up the stream to essentially nest where their parents essentially nest. So
yeah, they do release pheromones.
Impressive.
that's right. Things you live on the project.
That's why I asked him down, because that's way more than me.
Yeah, it's on the NIWA site. If you want to
Brilliant,
go have a
yeah.
look.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Aaron. Mel, would you like to have something to say?
With the craft projects, like obviously there's a huge amount of other detail behind them, like including, so how can, one question is how can the public see that? Because people have been asking about having 40k streets, and I can say, well, actually they're coming, that kind of thing. And then the other question is related to whoever said it before about the 30 versus 40. So you may as well, it would be good to explain that.
I'll do the craft one first, and then you can do the 30 versus 40 because that's your space. The craft one, yes, we're aware of that, and we're working hard right at the moment to try and get some outward-facing information that people can easily see where we're up to with everything. So we're working through with the comms team and the project managers working through with the comms team and others to try and get that up. It's just been a little bit delayed, so we apologise, but it is coming. And we are aiming to have it very easy to find, which is actually proving more difficult than we thought. Easy to see. 30 versus 40.
Just before the 30 versus 40 bit, what came out of the LTP was the decision to implement 5 slow speed neighbourhood areas a year. So we are cracking on with that. We're already underway with 3 this year, and there'll be another 2 coming to complete the 5. So there's consultation going out on a few of those at the moment. So we are working on that as part of the next 2 or 3 years as well. In that space, we're working on a city-wide speed management plan, and that's basically looking at all the speed limits across the city, and it's sort of taking the next step from what NZTA have already done with their Mega Maps tool. So their tool recommends safe and appropriate speeds But their tools are quite high level, so we're taking that to the next level of detail, and that's something that we will share with yourselves once that piece of work is complete. Within that, it does specify where 30 or 40k limits should be. But there's a complicating factor is that the new setting of speed limits rule is due out any time. We're expecting it early in the new calendar year, and that will give a lot more guidance on that. With the rule as it sits at the moment, it doesn't give us much scope to put 30s in, or makes it quite difficult, whereas 40s are easier to put in, easier to install, and a lot more accepted by the community. That's not to say we can't do 30s, it's just more difficult at the moment, but we hope that's going to change. Obviously, from a safety point of view, we support slower speeds, and we support trying to get the speeds as low as possible.
And what we really wanted you all to have was that graphic on that page that shows you why we really support it. It's a fundamental tool in our toolbox for, yeah.
Thank you, Mel. Pauline?
So actually that was going to be my point, that to congratulate you on that graphic on page 150, and it very succinctly explains the 1 kilometre increase of speed equals a 3% more likelihood of a crash, and also your connection between your human reaction time, the distance that it takes to implement that reaction, and the speed, and then the wet and the dry conditions. Yeah. It's a fantastic graphic, and I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, if any response has gone back to that petition that we had on the Marshall Road speed reduction, and if not, I think to include this graphic would be absolutely essential to explain the rationale of why a difference of 10 kilometres in speed would equal a 30% more chance of a crash and a higher percentage of a fatality. So can we follow that up to see if a response has gone and includes this if it hasn't?
Certainly.
Thanks. And thank you, Lynette. It's a great report.
Anne would like to talk again.
Question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 30k thing is interesting. We're at the moment looking at speeds along Hallswell Road, for the Akaroa. Yeah. So we've got that road going past the school, Hallswell School. So can you help us understand how that works in terms of what the government's going to require in terms of speeds outside of school, on the fact that it's going to be an NZTA road and it's a highway and all that stuff?
So that's a really good question, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that at the moment, where the new setting of speed limits rule is going to be pushing 30k's outside schools, but we just don't know what form that's going to take, whether it's going to be for permanent speed limits or temporary speed limits during school hours and so on. That we haven't had any clarity around that yet, and we're still waiting for that. We did submit a submission on the draft rule, and we did support that. We are in a good position in terms of school safety funding, so we've got a healthy school safety budget, but we're holding back a little bit on that at the moment until the new rule comes out. So as soon as the new rule comes out, we can start spending to match the speed limits to whatever the rule says.
So today I've got a meeting on that through Akaroa and through Hallswell. So what would be a good question to ask at that point, or is that something we should be considering as we look at that consultation?
I think
speed through there.
I think the question along the lines of what provisions are they proposing, and will those provisions allow for the future setting a speed limits rule, so you don't have to go back and change it in 6 months' time.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. And before Mike's next, but I just want to say, just correct me if I'm wrong, Lynette, I went over to the Peninsula on the weekend, and we've introduced new speed limits around some of the the bays. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
I was surprised to see, and I must have misunderstood, driving out of Little River heading to Akaroa, which I know is a state highway, I thought one of the things we were going to do was move that 100k's more towards Akaroa, so it's not just 20 metres before the exit of the reserve. But is that, I was expecting to see that speed change when I went over there, but is that not one of ours?
So that's part of what's out for consultation as of today, I think, or yesterday.
Yes.
We're actually tying in with the roads NZTA are doing and trying to reduce the speed limits on our roads that meet the state highway, so that there's consistency. So we're working together with NZTA from a single consultation point of view to make sure our roads are going to tie in with theirs and all those speed limits are uniform.
So we're working on that particular.
Yep.
That particular bit. Okay.
But
and
out through Cape Town, yeah.
While I've got the talking stick, as I said, Lynette, I was very happy to see Bohill Road and Martians Road and Marine Parade on there. Very roughly, if the strength of the road comes out looking good, would that be sealed this sealing season?
Yep.
What? Okay, thank you. That's great. And one
It's
other.
all going good, yes.
Yeah, cool. One other thing with the coastal pathway stuff, with the pipes, water main, sewer main, and the power cables that are having to be relayed at the same time, does that come all out of the same budget for the cycleway?
Yeah,
It does.
is my understanding. I'll double check
Great.
it,
No, that's
but
good.
I'm
That's good.
pretty sure because we have to do it.
In order
It is
of.
the project that is creating the need to adjust the services.
Cool. Excellent. Mike.
Thank you, Lynette. I appreciate you may not know the answer to this, but looking at the High Street one, have we had any further engagement in the south block and the businesses down there?
Not at this stage. And that's actually a couple of years out in the project, so we're looking to do that. That'll be, I think that's looking to start next year.
Okay.
And I'll start that again.
Yeah.
And part of it was we wanted to get on and get built,
Yeah.
so they could actually see what was coming.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit easier.
It's looking really
Really
good.
impressive. Yeah.
So further to that, quite a while back, we made a decision to allow the removal of the trees down there for them to put their scaffolding up to repair the facades. And that was on the condition that they were going to replace trees.
In the southern section.
Southern section.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of wondering what's happening there, because obviously the trees haven't been replaced, whether that's because we're going to tie it into any new works or...
I will follow that up and come back to you. I don't know that one, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Rightio. Anybody else? Anne would like to open her mouth again.
Just wanted to follow up on the trees, if I could, because actually there should be a time frame around that replacement as soon as possible, because it's all affects the environment. So there's no point waiting another 10 years to plant a tree. Pardon? Yes, I know, but I think we should have a time frame over it.
Cool. Anne.
One last.
By the way.
Steve, you mentioned health and school safety. Where do I find out more about that or something like that? I'm not sure if that was.
That's one of the ones we've got next month, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll be bringing something to you on that for the next update.
In December.
Sounds exciting. Thank you.
Good, I think. Thanks, Anne. Jimmy, and then Yanni.
Yeah. One more question. Regarding to the project of Amy's Road in Springsville, thank you. You share with us the complete list, green service in the cycle lane and vegetation, the replanting, etc. But my concern is the community and resident particular concern, because one, Springsville, there's a minor arterial road. The Amy's Road, you can see there's a collector road, and so many heavy motor vehicles they pass through, high quick frequency. They still concerned, whether, because before the earthquake that we put on the budget on this for the kind of traffic light, I'm not sure whether.
I'm sorry.
This one. Yeah.
Is it in the report?
The report, yes. I mean on page 153, last project.
Oh, Amy's. So that's one of the minor safety projects that is being done.
Yeah, it's
as part
minor,
of the-
I know. But in the long term, whether, when will be installed?
My understanding is Amy Springs
Yes.
is not on, it's not in the LTP as a standalone project. But my understanding is there is some other minor safety interventions that we are looking to do.
My understanding, you
It's
go
not,
back,
it's not in the LTP as a standalone project.
you go back to the 2015 to 21, they did a yes, but after later,
Is it not?
they're gone,
No.
yes. That's before. It's my concern, yes.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yanni?
So I've found the PT Futures business case. There's 7 intersection improvements that are listed as important in the short term. Do you have a sense of the cost of those in terms of the 5 million? Like, do we know how many could be done?
That's why we've said we'll come back and talk this through at next month's meeting.
So are you costing those now, basically?
We are working through what can be delivered for the money that we've got and what the priority is of the work that's been identified in the PT Futures.
Right, okay. But is it fair just to assume it's those 7 intersection improvements that are being considered?
No.
Okay.
No, we're looking at the whole of the PT business case and all of the projects provided, all of the projects identified, and we're looking to say, this is the picture and this is what we can do for the budget we've got and this is how we prioritise it.
Right. Have we all done?
Yep.
Mike is happy to move it and Sam is happy to second it. Do we have any debate?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Thank
I
you.
just wanted to, express my gratitude for the efforts that you're making to actually make this information easier for us to understand, digest, and really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that it's a lot easier for me to follow. Thank you very much. It's good. Right. I'd like to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, it's now Jimmy, isn't it? Yep. Jimmy's now volunteering to do the closing karakia. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay. Closing karakia. Uruhia, uruhia, uruhia ki te uru, tapu nue o te tane, ke watia, ke mama, te nakau, te tinana, te warua, I te aka, ta kata, kia tina, homie, huie, tai hie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. The meeting is now closed at 10:21. Thank you. Thank you.